Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 289. If you're writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing your book and you're having some trouble getting it done, or perhaps you're at the stage where you've already written your book, but you need help reaching more readers to let them know about it, you are in the right place. Good morning. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., I-N-K. Each day, I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 18 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that three things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they have the ability to turn someone who doesn't even see themselves as much of a writer into a published author. Those three things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. Write every day, line by line, page by page, hour by hour. Do this despite fear. For above all else, beyond imagination and skill, what the world asks of you is courage. Courage to risk rejection, ridicule, and failure. As you follow the quest for stories told with meaning and beauty, study thoughtfully but write boldly. Then, like the hero of the fable, your dance will dazzle the world. And that is by Robert McKee, and that's very much connected to today's episode. Because one of my 2020 projects, per the request of some of my Inc. Authors Facebook group members, is to translate this book, a story by Robert McKee, into book writing. So from screenwriting tactics to book writing. And arguably, Robert McKee is the screenwriting master himself, so I figure what better source. So I'm planning on doing this translation through a variety of blog posts and then possibly combining those into a book, depending on how enthusiastic the response is to the blog posts. I first read this book story by McKee years ago in LA when I was studying screenwriting and dabbling in acting, screenwriting, directing, producing, filmmaking, all the movie things. And I've actually enjoyed learning a variety of writing mediums over the years. Screenwriting, memoir writing, business books, personal development book writing, fiction, short stories, and more. So why has it taken me so long to want to translate this book called Story from screenwriting to book writing concepts? Quite frankly, because I was only looking at it from my point of view. And from my point of view, the dots between screenwriting and book writing naturally connected themselves. I was able to look at nearly all of McKee's screenwriting tactics and quickly see how they translated into book writing concepts. Because if we think about it, the story is a very universal concept that translates into, marketing, advertising, poetry, movies, books, just virtually everything in our lives. We're human beings. We translate, we communicate through story. So I kind of wasn't getting it, saying, well, why do I have to translate it? It makes perfect sense. So the thing is, and I was informed very loudly by others, not everyone is able to connect those screenwriting to book writing dots as easily as I do. So that's when the request came along from my authors for me to translate McKee's books. So that's what I'm doing. And I want to give you a preview of one of the early screenwriting lessons I've learned from the book that can be translated for authors. So I've learned and actually had reinforced, since when I first read this book years ago, I got this lesson from Mr. McKee, that screenwriting needs to be much tighter than book writing because of the nature of the medium. A feature script is approximately 15,000 words long, while the average novel is closer to like 85,000 words. So look at that difference right there. Screenwriting needs to be tighter, and because it's a visual medium, it needs to be more external and visually focused than a novel can be. So, inner thoughts and dialogue and introspection by your inner dialogue by your characters, you can't do that on the movie screen because it's just a person staring at the camera, unless you do it with a ton of voiceovers. And Robert McKee, he doesn't like those. I'll tell you that right now. He doesn't like dream sequences and voiceovers. I tend to use them sparingly. His thing is absolutely never. It's kind of interesting. But you see my point, though, that if you were going to do all the inner dialogue and introspection of book writing in screenwriting, the whole movie would be one giant voiceover. And that's not as exciting as conveying the story and revealing character through actions and scenes and all the things that we love about movies. So everything in screenplay needs to be conveyed through actions and not thinking. So my question is, why would any of these three things, tighter writing, more external writing, and more visual writing, be a bad thing for authors to aim for? Why would that be bad for us to write in such an interesting, entertaining, visual action way? At least we wouldn't risk the pages and pages and pages of thinking that sometimes lose our readers. So I personally think, and when I continue with the translation of this book to book writing, you start seeing my blog posts on Christine-Ink.com, you'll see me expand on this idea and many others. But my overall lesson of the day, however, for today is something I touched on a little earlier, and that is branch out in your study of the craft of writing. So you're not only learning book writing, but also things like screenwriting, short stories, poetry, nonfiction, and fiction. You never know what you'll learn from other mediums that can add a new layer of excitement to your book writing. For instance, I had a publicist once tell me she was able to kind of identify which memoirs I've ghostwritten for others that are kind of floating around out there, because she said, "Christine, your memoirs read like movies." Gee, I wonder why. See, so that's just one example of how if you study other mediums of writing, it can translate over and it adds a layer of excitement to the other styles of writing you're doing. So study, 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 and not just book writing, but all writing. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I'm helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. Be sure and drop by my Ink Authors group on Facebook for motivation, accountability, book writing, publishing resources, and more. And if you know someone else who wants to write a book, please let them know about this show. I'd appreciate it. Until tomorrow, happy writing.